Captain Lisa Rodriguez stood on the bridge of Kepler Station and watched the last evacuation ship disappear into the stars. The small transport carried only 200 people, but it was all they had left. 3 months ago, 50,000 people lived and worked on this mining station. Now only 300 remained. Lisa pressed her hand against the cold metal wall and felt the station shake. The mining equipment was still running, but not for mining anymore. Chief Engineer Paul Martinez had changed everything to power the quantum beacon. This beacon was the only thing keeping hope alive for millions of refugees fleeing across the galaxy. The Devourers were coming. Everyone knew it. These alien creatures had already eaten 12 worlds in the past month. They did not just take the metals and resources. They took everything, the life force of every plant, animal, and person. When they finished with a world, nothing was left but a dead rock floating in space. Lisa walked to the main screen and looked at the readings. The beacon was working at full power, sending signals deep into space to guide refugee ships to safety. But the power was dropping fast. They had maybe 6 hours before it failed completely. Paul Martinez came up behind her, his uniform dirty from working in the engine rooms. "Captain, I have boosted the beacon as much as I can. The signal should reach 3 more star systems now." Lisa nodded. "How long before the power core fails?" Paul wiped sweat from his face. 6 hours, maybe 7 if we are lucky. After that, the beacon goes dark. On the other side of the bridge, Dr. Helen Carter was studying alien signals they had picked up from Devourer ships. Helen was a scientist who studied alien life forms. For weeks, she had been trying to understand how these creatures worked. "Captain," Helen called out, her voice worried. "I have been looking at the Devourer communications. These things are not just hungry. They get stronger every time they feed. The fleet coming here has over 200 bioships. Each one is the size of a city." Lisa felt her heart sink. The station had 12 old fighter ships for defense. Each fighter was 20 years old and barely worked right. How could 12 fighters stop 200 bioships? Commander Jake Sullivan entered the bridge. He was the leader of their small fighter squadron. Jake was a good pilot, but even he knew the truth. "Captain, my pilots are ready. We know we cannot win, but we can buy time." Lisa looked at all of them. These people could have left on the evacuation ships. They chose to stay behind to help others escape. "How many refugee ships are still out there?" Helen checked her computer. "Long-range scans show at least 40 ships in this sector. Most are carrying families from the outer colonies. Without our beacon, they will be lost in space." The station shook again, harder this time. Through the windows, they could see the red dwarf star that Kepler Station orbited. The star was old and dying, but it still gave them power through the solar collectors. Paul looked at his instruments. "Captain, I am getting strange readings from the star. The Devourers might be doing something to it." Lisa walked to the tactical display. Red dots were appearing at the edge of their sensor range. The first Devourer scouts had arrived. "Jake, get your pilots ready. Paul, squeeze every bit of power you can from the beacon. Helen, keep monitoring their communications." Jake ran to the fighter bay. His pilots were waiting by their ships. These men and women knew they were about to die, but none of them complained. They climbed into their old fighters and prepared for launch. The first Devourer scout ship appeared on the main screen. It looked like a giant insect made of metal and flesh. Bioships were alive, growing and changing as they fought. This one was small, only the size of a building, but Lisa knew it was just the beginning. "Fighters launching now," Jake reported over the radio. 12 small ships flew away from the station toward the alien scout. Helen suddenly stood up, her face pale. "Captain, I just decoded part of their signal. The main fleet is not coming from the direction we expected. They are coming from 3 different directions at once." Lisa felt cold. "How many ships total?" "Over 200, just like I said before. But they are surrounding us. We cannot run." Paul worked frantically at his controls. "The beacon is holding steady, but I am reading massive energy signatures approaching. The main fleet will be here in 2 hours." On the screen, Jake's fighters reached the Devourer scout. The battle was short but fierce. The bioship fired energy beams that could cut through metal like paper. 2 human fighters exploded immediately, but Jake and his remaining pilots kept attacking, their old weapons barely scratching the alien hull. "Direct hit on the scout ship," Jake reported. "But it is healing the damage. These things can repair themselves." Lisa watched as more red dots appeared on the sensors. Dozens of Devourer ships were dropping out of hyperspace all around them. The main attack was beginning. Helen's computer started beeping frantically. "Captain, the Devourers are sending a message. I can translate some of it." "What does it say?" Helen's voice was quiet. "They are asking us to surrender. They promise to make our deaths quick if we stop fighting." Lisa looked around the bridge, at her remaining crew. These people had already given up everything to help others. "Send them our answer. Tell them humans do not surrender." Paul managed a tired smile. "The beacon is still transmitting, Captain. Every minute we hold them off, more refugee ships escape." Through the windows they could see the Devourer fleet approaching. The bioships moved like a swarm of insects, their hulls pulsing with sickly light. Soon, Kepler Station would be surrounded. Lisa took a deep breath. "All hands, prepare for battle. We hold this position until the beacon fails or we do." The last stand of Kepler Station was about to begin. The distress signal from Kepler Station traveled through quantum space faster than light itself. On the ocean world of HFY, Admiral Susan Blake was in her command center when the message arrived. The planet was covered mostly by water, with floating cities connected by bridges and tunnels. Susan read the message with growing horror. Kepler Station was under attack by over 200 Devourer bioships. The defenders were buying time for refugee ships to escape, but they could not hold out much longer. "Admiral," called Lieutenant Dan Cooper from his station. "Long-range sensors are picking up movement at the edge of our system. Multiple contacts heading this way." Susan walked to the main tactical display. Red dots were appearing on the screen, moving toward HFY. "How many ships?" "At least 100, Admiral. They will be here in 6 hours." Susan looked around her command center. HFY had a strong defense fleet with 30 advanced cruisers and hundreds of fighter craft. They had always thought it would be enough to protect their world. "Send word to all defense ships," Susan ordered. "Battle stations. Prepare for the largest fight of our lives." The ocean cities of HFY began to empty as evacuation ships launched from every spaceport. But there were 12 million people on the planet. Even working at full speed, they could only evacuate half of them before the Devourers arrived. Captain Gary Nelson commanded the defense cruiser Storm Rider. He had fought pirates and rebels for 20 years, but he had never faced anything like the Devourers. His ship was fast and well-armed, but the reports from other worlds were terrifying. "All ships, this is Admiral Blake," came the voice over the radio. "The enemy fleet has been spotted. They are bigger than anything we have ever seen. Remember, every minute we fight gives more people time to escape." The first Devourer bioships appeared at the edge of the system. They looked like massive sea creatures swimming through space. Their hulls pulsed with organic light, and long tentacles reached out from their sides. Some of the bioships were over a mile long. Gary's tactical officer gasped. "Captain, these things are alive. They are not built, they are grown." The battle began when the Devourers reached the outer defense platforms. The human weapons hit their targets, but the bioships absorbed the energy and used it to grow stronger. Plasma cannons that should have destroyed them only made them bigger. Admiral Blake watched in horror as her defense fleet fought bravely, but uselessly. Every weapon they fired seemed to feed the alien creatures. "All ships try kinetic weapons. Maybe solid projectiles will work better, but even explosive missiles only scratched the bioships." The creatures had some kind of energy field that turned most attacks into food. Within 3 hours, half of Susan's fleet was destroyed or captured by writhing tentacles. Meanwhile, on the crystal cities of Minerva 7, General Chris Thompson was dealing with his own disaster. The planet was famous for its beautiful crystal formations that grew naturally from the ground. The cities were built inside these crystals, creating amazing towers that sparkled in the sunlight. Chris stood on the highest tower of Crystal City and watched the sky burn. Devourer bioships were already in the atmosphere, their feeding process turning the air itself into poison. The crystals that had protected his people for centuries were cracking and turning black. General Evacuation Tunnel 7 has collapsed, reported Sergeant Amy Green. We have 3 million people trapped in the lower levels. Chris grabbed his radio. Engineering teams to Tunnel 7 immediately. Use the emergency escape pods if you have to. The Devourers did not just consume living things. They drained energy from everything, including the planet's core. As they fed, the ground started to shake and crack. The beautiful crystal cities began to fall apart. Amy Green led her team through the collapsing tunnels, carrying children and helping the elderly reach the escape pods. The air was getting thicker and harder to breathe as the Devourer feeding process spread across the planet. "This way," Amy shouted, guiding a group of families toward an exit. The transport ships are waiting on the surface. But when they reached the surface, the sky was dark with bioships. The transport ships were fighting desperately to reach the evacuation zones, but many were being caught by energy tentacles and pulled into the alien vessels. On the fortress, moon of HFY, the warrior race called the Korthak were making their final stand. These proud fighters had never retreated from any battle. Their moon was covered with military bases and weapon platforms that had protected the sector for 300 years. War Chief Thane stood in the command bunker with his human advisor, Lieutenant Amy Foster. Amy had come to HFY 2 years ago to help coordinate defenses between human and Korthak forces. "The outer defenses have fallen," Amy reported, checking her tactical screen. "But the Korthak warriors are still fighting in the tunnels." Thane nodded grimly. He was 8 feet tall with thick armor and forearms, each holding a different weapon. "My people do not know how to surrender. We will fight until the last warrior falls." The Korthak had powerful energy weapons and strong armor, but even they could not stop the Devourers forever. The bioships landed on the moon's surface and began to drain energy directly from the core. As the moon's power failed, the artificial gravity started to fluctuate. Amy worked at her computer trying to coordinate the defense. "Thane, I am getting reports from other sectors. Every world that fights the Devourers sends out a final message before they fall." "What do these messages say?" Amy's face was grim. "They all say the same thing. The Devourers are heading toward the core systems. They are going to Earth. At Titan Base, a deep space monitoring station near Saturn, communications. Officer Steve Hamilton was receiving these final messages from across the galaxy. Each one told the same terrible story. World after world was falling to the Devourers, and each defeat made the alien fleet stronger. Steve plotted the invasion route on his computer. The pattern was clear. The Devourers were not attacking randomly. They were following a specific path that led directly to humanity's home system. "Base Commander," Steve called to his superior, "I have calculated the Devourer fleet's route. They will reach Earth in exactly 14 days. Commander Betty Walsh looked at the projections. "How many ships will they have by then?" Steve checked his numbers again, hoping he had made a mistake. "Based on their current growth rate, at least 500 bioships, maybe more." Betty felt sick. Earth's defenses were not designed for this kind of threat. The home system had orbital platforms and patrol ships, but nothing that could stop 500 bioships that grew stronger with every battle. "Send a priority message to Earth Defense Command," Betty ordered. "Tell them what we know. Maybe they can figure out something we cannot." As the messages spread across space, one thing became clear to everyone. The galaxy was losing the war against the Devourers. World after world fell, and each defeat made the enemy stronger. Soon, they would reach Earth itself. In the depths of space, the Devourer fleet continued its deadly journey. The bioships had consumed dozens of worlds and millions of lives. They were no longer just hungry. They were unstoppable, or so it seemed. President Linda Morrison stood before the emergency session of Earth's United Defense Council. The Great Hall was filled with representatives from every nation and colony in the solar system. Outside the windows of the orbital headquarters, Earth hung like a blue jewel against the black of space. Linda's hands shook slightly as she held the reports from across the galaxy. Dozens of worlds had fallen to the Devourers in just 2 weeks. Each defeat made the enemy fleet larger and stronger. "Ladies and gentlemen," Linda began, her voice steady despite the terrible news. "We face the greatest threat in human history. The Devourer fleet will reach our solar system in 12 days. They will have at least 500 bioships." A murmur, a fear ran through the assembled delegates. Representative John Davis from the Mars colony stood up. "Madam President, what about evacuation? How many people can we save?" Linda looked at Admiral Tony Garcia, commander of Earth's space fleet. Tony was a good man who had served for 30 years, but his face showed the strain of the impossible situation. "Admiral Garcia will explain our options," Linda said. Tony stood up slowly. He had been working for 3 days straight trying to find some way to defend Earth. "The evacuation ships can carry 200 million people at most. Earth has 12 billion inhabitants. We cannot save everyone." The hall erupted in angry voices. Representatives shouted questions and demands, but Tony raised his hand for silence. "Our defense fleet has 43 battleships and cruisers," Tony continued. "Most are 20 years old or older. The orbital defense platforms can provide some support, but based on reports from other worlds, we might delay the Devourers for a few hours at best." Representative Sarah Kim from the Asian Federation asked, "What about our newest ships, the ones with quantum weapons?" Tony's expression was grim. "We have 6 ships with quantum weaponry. The aliens at Vega 7 had quantum weapons too. They lasted 4 hours." In the back of the hall, Dr. Kevin Wright stood up. Kevin was Earth's leading expert on alien technology. He had been studying every scrap of data from the fallen worlds. "I may have found something," Kevin said. "The Devourers seem to avoid certain areas of space, specifically regions with unstable quantum fields near dying stars or black holes." Linda leaned forward. "Are you suggesting we could hide there?" Kevin shook his head. "Not hide, but I think these quantum fields might interfere with their feeding process. It's just a theory, but it might explain why some remote outposts survived when major worlds fell." Admiral Garcia frowned. "Even if that's true, we cannot move Earth next to a black hole." "No," Kevin agreed. "But we might be able to create artificial quantum fields using our defense platforms. It would take every power core in the fleet, and it might not work at all." The discussion continued for hours, but everyone knew the truth. Earth did not have enough ships, enough weapons, or enough time to stop the Devourers. The best they could do was fight bravely and hope some humans would survive to carry on the species. In the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, mining supervisor Carol Davis was coordinating the largest evacuation effort in history. Hundreds of independent freighters, mining ships, and cargo haulers had answered the call to help. Carol's own ship, the ore hauler Big Sky, was not designed to carry passengers, but she and her crew had torn out the cargo holds and installed life support systems. Now the ship could carry 800 refugees. "Carol, this is Captain Eddie Martinez on the freight hauler New Hope," came a voice over the radio. "We have picked up 1,200 people from the Europa colonies. Where should we take them?" Carol checked her charts. The evacuation fleet was spread across the solar system, gathering refugees from every station and outpost. "Eddie, head for the Centauri jump point. The long-range transports are waiting there." But even working at full speed, the evacuation fleet could only save a fraction of Earth's population. For every ship that escaped, millions of people remained behind. Dr. Kevin Wright had moved his research team to Luna Base, the scientific station on Earth's moon. They were working around the clock, analyzing data from the fallen worlds, and trying to find some weakness in the Devourers. "Doctor, I found something interesting," called research assistant Lisa Park. She was looking at energy readings from the battle at Minerva 7. Kevin walked over to her workstation. "What did you find?" Lisa pointed to the data on her screen. "Look at these power signatures. Right before Minerva 7 fell, there was a massive quantum surge near the planet's moon. The Devourers pulled back for almost an hour." Kevin studied the readings carefully. "This looks like a natural quantum storm. They happen sometimes near unstable gravity fields." "That's what I thought," Lisa said. But look at this data from Aquatica Prime. Same thing happened there. And at Cortac Prime, too. Kevin felt his heart racing. Are you saying the Devourers are afraid of quantum storms? Maybe not afraid, Lisa replied. But they definitely avoid them. Every time there's a natural quantum event, the bioships retreat to a safe distance. Kevin grabbed his communicator and called Admiral Garcia on Earth. Admiral, I need to speak. With you immediately. We might have found something. Meanwhile, in the outer solar system, Earth's defense fleet was taking positions around the major planets. Captain Ryan Bell commanded the old battlecruiser USS Independence, one of the most powerful ships in the fleet. Ryan looked around his bridge at the young crew members. Most of them had never been in a real battle. They were about to face an enemy that had destroyed every military force sent against them. Captain, called his tactical officer, Lieutenant Mark Johnson. Long-range sensors are picking up something at the edge of the system. It's not the Devourers. Ryan walked to the sensor station. What are you seeing? Mark adjusted his instruments. It looks like a probe of some kind. Very small, but the energy signature is strange. I have never seen anything like it. The probe was sending out scanning beams, studying the solar system's defenses. It recorded the positions of every ship and platform, then disappeared into hyperspace. Sir, Mark said quietly, I think the Devourers just finished scouting our defenses. Ryan nodded grimly. Send word to all ships. The enemy knows where we are and what we have. The real attack will begin soon. Back on Earth, President Linda Morrison was meeting with her top advisors in the secure bunker beneath the Capitol. The weight of 12 billion lives pressed down on her shoulders. Madam President, said Defense Secretary Robert Chen, the evacuation. Ships have saved 400 million people so far, but we are running out of time. Linda looked at the tactical displays showing the approaching Devourer fleet. The bioships were massive, each one capable of destroying a city, and they were getting closer every hour. What about Dr. Wright's quantum field theory? She asked. Admiral Garcia shook his head. We tried it on a small scale. The artificial quantum field lasted only 3 minutes before our power cores overloaded. To protect the whole planet, we would need 100 times more power. Linda stared out the window at the blue sky above Earth. Somewhere up there, her people were preparing for their final battle. They knew they could not win, but they would fight anyway. Send a message to the fleet, Linda said. Tell them Earth is proud of them. Whatever happens, humanity will remember their sacrifice. The storm was gathering, and Earth stood directly in its path. The Devourer fleet entered Earth's solar system like a plague of metal locusts. 500 bioships spread out in formation, each one pulsing with the stolen life force of dozens of consumed worlds. Captain Ryan Bell watched from the bridge of USS Independence as the enemy approached. All defense ships, this is Admiral Garcia, came the voice over the radio. Take your positions. Remember, we are fighting for every soul on Earth. Ryan's crew was ready. They had been preparing for this moment for days. His ship was old, but it carried the most powerful weapons Earth could build. Around him, 42 other human ships moved into attack formation. The orbital defense platforms opened fire first. Beams of pure energy lanced out across space, striking the leading bioships. The weapons had been designed to destroy the largest enemy vessels, but they barely scratched the Devourer hulls. Sir, called Lieutenant Mark Johnson from his tactical station. The energy weapons are having no effect. The bioships are absorbing the power and getting stronger. Ryan gritted his teeth. Switch to kinetic rounds. Maybe solid projectiles will work better. But the missile barrages were equally useless. The bioships simply caught the explosives with their energy tentacles and converted the blast energy into food. Within an hour, the orbital platforms were destroyed or captured. On Earth below, President Linda Morrison watched the battle from her command bunker. The tactical displays showed her fleet being torn apart by enemies they could not hurt. Each human ship that died made the Devourers stronger. Admiral Garcia, you need to pull back, Linda said into her communicator. You are just feeding them. Tony Garcia's voice was strained. Madam President, we are buying time for the last evacuation ships. Every minute counts. But time was running out. The Devourer bioships reached the asteroid belt and began consuming the mining stations there. The metal and energy from human installations made them grow visibly larger. Captain Carol Davis was still in the belt with her evacuation fleet when the Devourers arrived. Her ship Big Sky was loaded with 800 refugees from the outer colonies. "All evacuation ships, this is Carol Davis," she broadcast. "Run for the jump points. Do not try to fight them." But many of the civilian ships were too slow. Carol watched in horror as bioships caught freight haulers and passenger transports. Long tentacles wrapped around the human vessels and began draining their power. Within minutes, the ships were empty hulls floating in space. Carol pushed her engines to maximum power. Big Sky was not a warship, but she had to try to save her passengers. "Hold on, everyone. We are going to make a run for it." The ore hauler raced through the asteroid field with 3 bioships in pursuit. Carol used the asteroids as cover, but the alien vessels were faster and more maneuverable. They were gaining on her. Just as the leading bioship was about to catch Big Sky, space itself began to tear open. At first, it looked like a normal hyperspace jump. Ships entered and left hyperspace all the time. But this was different. Instead of the familiar blue-white light of hyperspace, this portal was deep black filled with distant stars. A massive battleship emerged from the impossible darkness. The vessel was 3 times larger than anything in Earth's fleet, its hull made of materials that seemed to bend light around them. The ship moved with impossible grace, as if the laws of physics did not apply to it. "This is Captain Ben Parker of the USS Liberty," came a calm voice over all radio frequencies. "All Earth ships withdraw to a safe distance. We will handle this." Carol stared at her sensors in amazement. The ship's energy readings were off the charts. Whatever USS Liberty was, it was not built with any technology she recognized. Captain Ryan Bell aboard USS Independence tried to respond. "Unknown vessel, this is Captain Bell of Earth Defense Fleet. Identify yourself and state your intentions." Ben Parker's voice was steady and confident. "Captain Bell, we are the Void Hunters. We have been watching this galaxy for a long time. Today we return to protect our home." The USS Liberty turned toward the Devourer bioships that had been chasing Carol's evacuation fleet. The battleship's weapons began to charge, creating energy patterns that made space itself ripple. When Liberty fired, the effect was unlike anything Carol had ever seen. Instead of energy beams or projectiles, the weapons seemed to erase pieces of reality. Where the shots hit the bioships, the alien vessels simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed, not damaged, but completely removed from the universe. "Impossible," whispered Dr. Kevin Wright from Luna Base. He was monitoring the battle from his research station. "Those weapons are rewriting the fundamental laws of physics." But USS Liberty was not alone. More ships began emerging from the dark portal. Each vessel was different, built with technologies that seemed to operate outside normal spacetime. Some ships were long and sleek. Others were geometric patterns that hurt to look at directly. Admiral Kate Johnson's voice came over the radio from the command ship USS Constitution. "Earth Defense Command. This is Admiral Johnson of the Void Hunter Fleet. We are taking command of this battle." President Linda Morrison was speechless. She had never heard of any Void Hunters or these incredible ships. "Admiral Johnson, where did you come from? How do you have this technology?" Kate Johnson's voice carried across space with impossible clarity. "Madam President, we are the descendants of Earth's deep space exploration fleets, the ones that disappeared into the void centuries ago. We have learned to survive in the darkness between galaxies." The battle was changing rapidly. The Devourer, bioships that had easily destroyed Earth's defenses, found themselves facing enemies they could not understand. The Void Hunter ships phase in and out of reality, attacking from angles that should not exist. Captain Ben Parker led surgical strikes against the largest bioships. USS Liberty moved through space like a ghost, appearing behind enemy vessels and erasing them with quantum disruptors. Each shot left a gap in reality where the Devourer ship had been, but the alien fleet was massive and the Devourers were learning. The bioships began to adapt, trying to understand these new weapons. Some of them started generating energy fields to protect themselves. "Admiral," called the tactical officer aboard USS Constitution, The Devourers are adapting faster than expected. They are studying our attack patterns. Kate Johnson nodded. She had fought creatures like this before in the dark spaces between stars. All ships execute Pattern 7, phase shift on my mark. The Void Hunter fleet suddenly vanished from normal space. For a moment, the Devourers seemed confused, their bioships searching for enemies that were no longer there. Then the humans attacked from everywhere at once. The Void Hunter ships existed partially outside normal spacetime, allowing them to strike from impossible directions. They hit the bioships from above and below, from past and future, from dimensions that had no names. Captain Carol Davis watched the battle in amazement. The Devourers, who had seemed unstoppable just minutes before, were being systematically destroyed by weapons that operated on the very structure of reality itself. "Carol, this is Ben Parker," came the voice from USS Liberty. "Get your evacuation ships to safety. We will finish this." Carol looked at her sensors and saw more Void Hunter ships emerging from the dark portal. Dozens of them, each one carrying weapons that could reshape space itself. For the first time since the invasion began, she felt something she had almost forgotten: hope. The battle for Earth became something beyond normal warfare. Captain Ben Parker guided USS Liberty through impossible maneuvers, his ship existing in multiple dimensions at once. The Void Hunters fought with weapons that turned the emptiness of space itself into their ally. "Target the bioship clusters near Jupiter," Ben ordered his crew. "Use quantum disruptors at maximum power." Liberty's weapons fired, and entire sections of the Devourer fleet simply vanished. The shots did not explode or burn through the alien hulls. They erased the bioships from existence, leaving gaps in space where matter had once been. Dr. Ellen Brooks worked frantically in Liberty's science bay. She was trying to explain to her Earth counterparts how Void Hunter technology worked. Through her communication link with Dr. Kevin Wright on Luna Base, she shared impossible knowledge. "Kevin, you have to understand," Ellen said, her voice crackling across space. "We learned to survive in true emptiness. The void between galaxies has no matter, no energy, no time as you understand it. To live there, we had to become something more than human." Kevin stared at the data streaming to his computers. "Ellen, these readings show your ships existing in probability states rather than fixed reality. How is that possible?" Ellen smiled sadly. "When you spend centuries in absolute nothingness, you learn that reality is more flexible than anyone imagined. We exist partially outside normal spacetime. That is why the Devourers cannot adapt to our weapons. The Void Hunter fleet spread throughout the solar system like avenging angels. Admiral Kate Johnson coordinated their movements from USS Constitution, her tactical displays showing enemy positions across 4 dimensions. "All units, the Devourers are trying to retreat," Kate announced. "Do not let them escape to consume other worlds. This ends here." Commander Alex Mitchell led a boarding action against one of the largest bioships. His Marines wore armor that existed in quantum uncertainty, allowing them to phase through solid matter. They walked through the hull of the alien vessel like ghosts. Inside the bioship, the environment was a nightmare of living tissue and metal. The walls pulsed with stolen life energy, and the air itself was toxic. But the Void Hunter Marines were no longer entirely human. They had adapted to survive in environments that would kill normal people. "Commander, we have reached the creature's nerve center," reported Sergeant Lisa Carter over the radio. "This thing is not just a ship, it is alive and intelligent." Alex nodded as he studied the writhing mass of organic technology around them. "Plant the quantum charges. We erase this entire vessel from reality." The charges were not normal explosives. They were devices that created localized space where matter could not exist. When they activated, the bioship would not be destroyed. It would simply stop being real. Meanwhile, Captain Ryan Bell watched the battle from USS Independence with amazement and growing hope. His outdated battleship had been helpless against the Devourers, but the Void Hunters were winning a fight that seemed impossible just hours before. "Captain, we are receiving new orders from Admiral Johnson," reported Lieutenant Mark Johnson. "The Void Hunters want us to evacuate all remaining personnel from the orbital stations." Ryan looked at the tactical display. The Devourer fleet was being systematically eliminated, but some bioships were breaking away and heading toward Earth itself. All Earth ships, protect the evacuation transports. Do not engage the bioships directly. On Earth, President Linda Morrison watched the incredible battle from her command bunker. The Void Hunter ships moved through space like living things, their hulls shifting and changing as they fought. Some vessels looked like traditional spacecraft, others were geometric patterns that seemed to exist in more than 3 dimensions. "Madam President," called her communications officer, "Admiral Johnson is requesting a direct link." Linda activated the communication system. Kate Johnson's image appeared on the main screen. She looked human, but there was something different about her eyes. They held depths that seemed to reflect the endless void of space. "President Morrison," Kate said, "we need to discuss the Devourer, Hive Mind. The individual bioships are just the beginning. The real threat is coming." Linda felt cold. "What do you mean?" Kate's expression was grim. "The bioships are controlled by a central intelligence that exists partially in subspace. It has been feeding on the life force of entire worlds for millennia. The fleet we are fighting is just its feeding tentacles." On the main tactical display, space began to twist and bend near Earth's moon. Reality itself was tearing open as something massive forced its way into normal space. The Devourer Hive Mind emerged like a living nightmare. It was not a ship or even a creature in any normal sense. It was a mass of pure hunger that existed, across multiple dimensions, feeding on the very concept of life itself. Captain Beth Williams received her orders aboard the experimental ship USS Frontier. Her vessel was the most advanced in the Void Hunter fleet, equipped with weapons that operated on quantum uncertainty principles. "Beth, this is Admiral Johnson," came Kate's voice over the radio. "The Hive Mind is emerging near Luna. You know what you have to do." Beth nodded grimly. "Copy that, Admiral. Beginning dimensional approach." USS Frontier began to phase out of normal reality. The ship existed in probability rather than certainty, allowing it to enter the strange realm where the Hive Mind lived. Beth and her crew were about to fight a battle in a place where thought and reality intersected. Inside the Hive Mind's dimensional pocket, the rules of physics were different. The creature's intelligence was vast and alien, fed by the life force of millions of worlds. It had consumed entire civilizations, growing stronger with each victory. But the Void Hunters had learned to fight in impossible places. Beth's weapons fired bursts of pure impossibility, shots that should not exist but did anyway. Each hit forced the Hive Mind to choose between contradictory realities. "Captain, the creature is trying to merge with Earth's biosphere," reported her science officer. "If it succeeds, it will drain all life from the planet in minutes." Beth pushed her ship deeper into the Hive Mind's realm. Around her, reality shifted and changed like a living thing. Her crew had to focus on their instruments, because looking directly at their surroundings could drive a person insane. The final battle was not fought with energy weapons or explosives. It was a contest of will and imagination, humans who had learned to survive in the void against a creature that had devoured galaxies. The Hive Mind struck back, trying to drain the life force from Beth's crew. But the Void Hunters were protected by their partial existence outside normal space. They had already given up their pure humanity to become something that could survive in absolute emptiness. "All weapons, fire on my mark," Beth ordered. "Target, the creature's dimensional anchor." USS Frontier's weapons fired in patterns that existed across multiple realities. The shots hit the Hive Mind's connection to normal space, severing its ability to feed on Earth's biosphere. With a sound like reality tearing, the Hive Mind collapsed in on itself. The creature that had consumed countless worlds was pulled back into the dark spaces between dimensions. Its hunger finally ended. Throughout the solar system, the remaining Devourer bioships simply stopped moving. Without the Hive Mind to control them, they became empty shells floating in space. The battle was over. Earth was safe. Captain Ben Parker opened a communication channel to President Morrison. "Madam President, the threat has been eliminated. Your world is secure." Linda felt tears running down her face. "Captain Parker, I do not know how to thank you. You saved our entire species." Ben's voice was quiet. "We are all human, President Morrison. We may have changed during our time in the void, but Earth is still our home. We will always protect our family." Admiral Kate Johnson addressed the entire solar system from USS Constitution. "People of Earth, this is Admiral Johnson of the Void Hunter Fleet. The Devourer threat has been ended. But the galaxy is vast, and other dangers exist in the darkness between stars." She paused, looking out at the infinite expanse of space. "We return now to our watch in the void. But remember, you are never alone. When humanity faces extinction, we will emerge from the darkness to stand with you." One by one, the Void Hunter ships began to phase back into their impossible realm. The dark portals opened again, revealing glimpses of the strange space between galaxies where these guardians made their home. Captain Carol Davis watched from her evacuation ship as the last Void Hunter vessel disappeared. Her cargo of refugees was safe, and Earth below was intact. Hope had returned to the galaxy. USS Liberty was the final ship to leave. Captain Ben Parker sent one last message to Earth before vanishing into the void. Hope was never truly gone. It was just waiting in the darkness, growing stronger. "We will be watching." The portal closed and normal space returned to the solar system, but humanity would never forget the day their lost children returned from the void to save them all. In the depths of space between galaxies, the Void Hunters resumed their eternal watch. They had protected their home, but their mission was far from over. Other threats lurked in the cosmic dark, and humanity's guardians would be ready.